Welcome to Who's Your Mama, a podcast focusing on tomorrow's future, which are our kids, educators, teachers, parents, all encompassing with the goal of understanding that our brain is a muscle that we can exercise to control the speed in the direction that we want. Let's go, y'all. The time is now. Ryan Jacenna, also known to so many literally around the world as DJ Lush Bunny. Welcome to Who's Your Mama?
Hello, Michelle. Hello, everybody.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on here and so many things in a short period of time to go over. But one of the things that prompted me to ask you to come on was having the good fortune to know you in so many different areas. And one specific area that I wanted to zone in that I think would speak to so many people is around perseverance, how we push ourselves in life, how music can impact that. And specifically, your journey when you decided during the pandemic to take on running. And more than that, I often say run, run bunny, but you didn't just take it on, you took it on to a marathon. So we don't have marathon time, at least today, but help us come on that journey. That what sparked you to start that during the pandemic?
You know, I think one of the key things that really hit me on the pandemic was, while everybody was in their house, in their rooms, isolated, and really not moving too much, like I felt like this wasn't the way that I wanted to kind of go out in my life. And um, I was fortunate enough to live somewhere that has a track and field course nearby. And every morning I would go there for a walk. And there was this coach that would train athletes, track and field athletes. Some were high school, some were college, and some were going to the Olympics. And to just kind of witness how they worked and how they did their process and learning and growing, kind of dropped a seed within me. And eventually I joined them, just went up to the coach, was like, hey, if I give you $20, would you just allow me to train with you guys? And at first he was hesitant to do so
Why do you think he
because
was hesitant?
I think he was hesitant because he trains people that had a purpose. He doesn't train people just to like learn how to run. And once I've identified with him that like, then train me for a purpose. And that became the marathon. So that became a goal. He was a coach that wasn't, his brain wasn't designed just to train someone to run. You had to have this purpose. And it helped, give you this kind of, fire, give you this process to work towards. And he needed that and he wanted that from me. And so the marathon became that flagpole. And mind you, at this time in my life, I didn't run for probably haven't run in 15, 20 years since, and was in my 20s. And, I was a bit overweight. And, I was told that my knees were bad. And so these were all just kind of really things against me in picking up running. I had plantar fasciitis. I had all these injuries throughout my body. Um, and yet, like, I was determined to kind of take this on. So, like, my first week, I ran barefoot just to get my feet straight.
Was that because of his suggestion or you decided that on your own? Did you have a discussion either way?
It was a suggestion because I couldn't even run half a block. Literally, I tried to run half a block, not even run, jog half a block, and I was out of breath. I was throwing up. My body wasn't used to it, and it, almost broke me just to jog half a block. So he had to completely deconstruct my body and my form. And the first step was to strengthen my feet. And that's
That's
where
that's
we're
interesting
running
because you
barefoot.
talk about purpose and a lot on Who's Your Mama with so many different people, walks of life is about intention. And we'll
Hmm.
get to that part about your music, about
Hmm.
everything we do with intention, being consciously conscious, I say. And it sounds like he was trying to see if your purpose and intention was actually going to be the driver versus him driving you. It's
Hmm.
synergistic, but you can't make somebody have that fire in them if they're not willing to do the work. And that was
Exactly.
yes.
Like you can't teach the hunger, you know. So that
That's
was
right. That's right. You lead
his
a horse
thing.
to water. We could do these things back
Yeah.
exactly. So then okay, so you went through that part and then it had this continuum and you started to see the momentum. How how would you describe that process as it went on during the pandemic and in any area of life?
Hmm.
I'm not limiting it to that.
Hmm.
And then as things started to open up,
One of the things I started to notice was that I was coming out of the pandemic with more energy. I lost about 40 to 50 pounds. I also stopped drinking. Um, and although my only goal was to finish one marathon, it gave me this driving force to do this one marathon. And, I felt like coming out of it, I had never felt better in my life,
what does that can you
and
expand on that? What you mean by better in your life?
um, one of the ways is that, my sleep had been kind of streamlined. So I was no longer having this irregular sleep pattern. So I was waking up every day at 5 a.m. And going out running. And it the habits kind of just built. And it just compounded physically and mentally. It also helped me at work. I had the energy at work. I had the resolve to do and improve in my work. So it just touched every aspect of my life, even though running was just the primary component that drove it. And also, like not drinking, like really allowed me to kind of clear my head and really understand what I wanted out of my life and what that means and how running kind of evolves within me.
Yeah, no, that's I as somebody who mourned running like a family member when
Hmm.
due to multiple injuries I no longer could, but for decades actually I did.
Hmm.
And I completely understand where you're coming from and but just overall exercise and mindfulness and how that
Hmm.
provides clarity and if you can't do something else, finding something that connects with you so it doesn't feel like work. So then speaking of that, because your full-time job is not DJing,
Hmm.
although you do put a lot of time and energy into it, and it's incredible. What would you say was well, so it's two questions. One, how did running impact what you listened to when you ran? And also, how did this journey that you're still continuing on, did you find impact your music, genres, all of it?
Hmm. Music plays a big role in my life, but also specifically just when you're starting out running. Cadence is an important aspect of building running and really maintaining a zone where you're not over kind of running yourself, going too fast, too far. That, it gets easy to lose track of that, and music really helps in guiding you and establishing, you know, your cadence to not overrun, not push yourself too hard, or not slack off too much.
Do
So
you
I
have certain
became
genres that
really,
you listen to at certain miles, or How do you choose?
It just differs because each run has an intent or a purpose. There are runs that are just meant to build base, and that typically means it's a slower pace, slower tempo, less than 120 beats per minute. And then there are some runs in which, you want to build speed and power. And that's when you're just cranking up the volume. So even though I DJ mostly electronic and house music, my musical taste run the gamut of like, folk, guitar driven, music all the way to heavy metal. So my spectrum of musical taste really helps me because I'm not stuck in a particular genre. It really helps me kind of craft the perfect soundtrack for whatever run I've designed myself to. So even for my marathons, I design my own soundtrack to my marathons that keeps up with the route and the pacing that I do.
Have you been keeping actually on that note, do you have your specific run bunny tracks
I have, I would say, a
as you went on
good
your
amount of
journeys?
tracks. Yeah, I have a good tracks where I just lean on when, like, hey, when things are going tough. It's usually when things are going tough, like near
Yeah.
like the last 3 or 4 miles where you just need that extra oomph. There are just songs that I will lean into and be like, all right, let's go, let's do this. And they're faster tempo, typically bass heavy, and that usually gets me to the finish line.
Well, I'm sure that people listening would love to know what tempos and beats they had for people that are especially as different times of the year and trying to get that
Hmm.
motivation and thinking that a marathon may not be in their cards, but just getting out and walking
Hmm.
and all of that. So the bunny beats, I just came up with that right now. But is to get that momentum, like you said. So as we're coming to an end, one thing that I wanted to ask you, and it's a broad question, but knowing what you don't know now and what you've experienced at this point in life, if you could tell your younger self a few things, what would it be and why?
I think the main thing is don't get too comfortable. Early on in life, I chased comfort. I thought comfort would give me happiness. So in my 20s and 30s, I found the most comfortable bed, most comfortable pillow, the most comfortable everything, because in comfort and safety, I felt like that's going to bring me happiness. And looking back, it really doesn't. And now I'm in pursuit of discomfort, of, doing hard things, pain. These are things that provide us challenges, but also allow us to grow. And those are the things I'm very interested in now, is just pushing myself, how far I can go, how much I can tolerate, how much uh, I can feel, and building those relationships with failure and learning from it, from pain, building a relationship with that. Because to me, that's really the only way we can grow and have a full human experience in our time here.
I completely agree. It's been a common theme with other guests that I've had on recently that talks about the difference between understanding fear that holds you back versus pushes you. And we're
Mhm.
never too old to grow in life.
No, no.
And the importance of who we surround ourselves and what that looks like and knowing ourselves. And a big part of that is pushing our own limits and the boundaries expand in growth.
Mhm.
So, and a big part of that is music, and your music speaks to so many people. And thank you for sharing your story. So, with that, I always close off on Who's Your Mama because it's about let's take action. So, let's go, y'all. The time is now.
Y'all, the time is now. Let's go.
Yes. Thank you, Ron, Lush
Thank you,
Bunny.
Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Who's Your Mama. And I look forward to collaborating from a community standpoint for the next episodes.